For the last 15 years, Adam Montiel has been bringing you the stories, the people, and the producers that make wine better and more fun. Whether you're a connoisseur or a cork. Here, we taste it, we spill it, we leave it all on the table. It's The Pour with Adam Montiel.
Here is where we taste it, we spill it, we leave it all on the table. Thank you for being here. It is The Pour. We have the privilege of speaking with a true innovator and visionary whose career has spanned multiple industries, leaving an indelible mark on each. John Couch is perhaps best known for his trailblazing work in technology, where he held the distinguished title of Apple's first Vice President of Education. I mean, this is a guy who was recruited, how he was recruited by Steve Jobs personally, twice, mind you, they're just great stories. And John is a really, really great guy. Can't wait to share this interview with you. During his tenure, John led initiatives that revolutionized the way technology is integrated into classrooms, fostering an era of digital learning that continues to shape the education landscape today. But John's journey does not stop there. A man of diverse talents and interests, he recently transitioned from the world of tech to the scenic beauty of San Luis Obispo, embracing the rich culture and community of SoCal, right here on the Central Coast, baby. Here, John is embarked on a new venture that combines his passion for innovation and his love for viticulture, establishing Couch Family Wines. His dedication to excellence and his drive to create something truly unique is evident in every bottle, reflecting that same pioneering spirit that characterized everything he does, from his time at Apple, producer of like one of the biggest films last year, Sound of Freedom. Join us as we dive into John Couch's remarkable journey from Silicon Valley to the vineyards of San Luis Obispo, exploring how his experiences have shaped his approach to winemaking and what he envisions for the future of Couch Family Wines here. He is already making a mark you do not want to miss. I'm so excited because we will taste it, we will spill it, and we will leave it all on the table today with John Couch. Before we get into that conversation, though, I want to give you a little nugget. I want to bring on the phone for a few minutes my good friend Marianne Erdos. She is from corkandcruise.com. Your time is winding down, but there is still time to get on this Ama Waterways, the Ama Christina, they call it. Yeah, it's pretty much a brand new boat. It's going to be going down the Rhone River in France. We're going to start in Lyon, spend a week, 7 nights, go all the way down to Arles. Oh my gosh. Oh my God. It's going to be such an incredible time. Would love for you to be on this boat. I'm going to be hosting some different winemaker dinners and tastings, but listen to the winemakers we have here. We brought some star power. We are all on this boat because of Don Burns from Turtle Rock. Turtle Rock Vineyard's going to be bringing that first cab. That Cabernet Sauvignon that they made is incredible. Maybe, who knows, maybe we'll get some of that 100-point G2 Syrah. I don't know. Who knows? I wouldn't count on it, but I'm not going to leave anything out of the realm of possibility. In addition to Don Burns, we got Kit Kuiper from Hawks Hill Ranch. These are all buddies of Donnie's, so it is going to be it's going to be a show for sure. I'm not going to say what kind of show, it's going to be a show. Hawks Hill Ranch's Kit Kuiper, and then Juan Mercado. He was the last episode of The Pour. Got a ton of great feedback. Now you know him a little more. Our conversation with Juan Mercado, it was the episode right before this. Check it out. From Rise Wines, also Realm fame. He's going to be on the boat, and I heard some more. I even heard we might even get a little G2 action, if you know what I mean. I don't know. I mean, if someone books a trip, are you allowed to just kind of put it out there? I'm so excited. Joel Peterson from Paso Wine is going to be there. We are having a who's who on this river cruise ship. It is going to be a confluence of characters and wine and people and beautiful moments that will never happen again. If you want to get involved, go to adammontiel.com. There is a white bar on the homepage right there at adammontiel.com. It says, come cruise with us. You can check it out, check out the itinerary, and then link with my girl Marianne from Cork and Cruise, and she will get you dialed in. And if you book, our friends at Fly with Wine are going to hook you up with a free large luxury suitcase. It carries a case of wine. Yes, 12 bottles just for booking with me here. And don't forget, anytime you can go to flywithwine.com, shop around, use the promo code ADAM20, ADAM20. ADAM20, the promo code. You're going to save 20% off everything you buy and get free shipping. You're going to get that free fly with wine. It's on me. I'm taking care of it. You're all good. And you, even if you don't want to use it for wine, take out the patented fillers that they give you and just use it as luggage. That's what I'm doing. I'm going to be rolling completely fly with wine out for this trip to France. So again, August 1st through 8th, still time, adammontiel.com. Check it out. Let me get on the phone with Marianne and just, vent out a little excitement. Thanks for hanging out, Marianne. How's it going?
It's going great. How are you, Adam?
Good. You getting ready to cruise with me? I'm getting ready to cruise with you guys.
Oh my gosh. We're just barely over 1 month away. I cannot believe it. It's getting real. And I'm, super excited to spend a week with you and your lady and these wonderful winemakers. So it's going to be a blast.
It's fun. So we're going down the Rhone in France, starting in Lyon, going all the way to Arles. And we got Don Burns from Turtle Rock, Fox Hill Ranches, Kit Kuiper, and then Juan Mercado from Rise Wines. And if that wasn't good enough, more people are getting word about this cruise, and to see some of the names of people that are coming. I don't know. Is there like a confidentiality? Are we allowed to announce some of these people? I think it's so cool when I started hearing some of the who's who that are going to be there. Isn't that neat?
Yeah, I don't know. I should have asked them if it's okay to say they're on board. Probably shouldn't. But yeah, there's some really special guests that have signed up, not because they're hosting, but because they just want to be a part of this really fun adventure, which it just makes it even that more special. So yeah, it's going to be a party.
It definitely is. And I think that the young end of the demo for an AMA cruise is about to be shattered with this cruise, because normally we'll go in there, the average age might be maybe in their 60s or more, but it's going to be just grown and sexy adults having fun. It's going to be so much fun experience.
It's going to be a blast. I can't wait to spend a week with everybody, and spent quite a bit of time with Dawn on the phone this past week, finalizing all the wines we're bringing. I cannot tell you how much wine we're bringing. Well, I can't tell you. I have a spreadsheet full of it, but he's pulling out like 4 or 5 library wines that people will not be able to taste anywhere else. So it's going to be really, really great.
Let's talk about what we're doing. We're getting into Lyon August 1st and kind of paint this week and how it's going to go and what you've dialed in for us.
Yeah. So we start in Lyon, which if you're not familiar with Lyon, it is, I think we've talked about it before, it's nicknamed the stomach of France. So I think it has something like 60 plus Michelin star restaurants in the city. So if you're a foodie, Lyon is like the place to be, not only in Europe, but like even in France, which already has the most incredible foods. This, I think, is a great place. We'll start there. Most people are arriving the day before, so you'll have a chance to eat wherever you want. That's what I plan on doing. And then we'll get on board, and it's going to be fun. Right off the bat, we're having a little gathering with just our group, and we're going to be kind of getting to know each other the first night we will be on board. And then the next day, we're really going to hit it off with some really great excursions. I won't go into detail of all the excursions, but just think like wine tasting at, some of the most beautiful wineries in the Rhone. If you're into culture, there will be city tours, walking tours, bike tours that'll include culture, food. If you're into art,
really cool. Winery in Beaujolais, and then all the art too. Like there's this one city, I don't know if it's Vienna or something, but it was like made back in Roman times, and like the Romans had it. So you're like seeing buildings that look like the freaking Colosseum, and you're just like riding your bike up to it and having coffee next to it and eating a croissant by this beautiful church or this papal palace, in Avignon. I mean, it's nuts. And you can go to corkandcruise.com, you can actually see the complete itinerary. You just got to go with us. And if you're getting serious about it, just call up Marianne and just ask her questions about it. She'll get you dialed in. And if you book through anything like Up and Adam or The Pour, Fly with Wine is going to hook you up with a beautiful piece. Their large luxury suitcase holds a case of wine. I don't know about you. I like to take the inserts out. I'm just going to use it as my suitcase. So I think I might have one for wine, one for my crap. I don't know what I'm doing, but I know Fly with Wine is definitely coming with me. You even got a Fly with Wine case, didn't you?
I did. I bought one. I got your 20% discount. And I bought a carry-on version. So I think mine holds 5. But honestly, I bought the extra insert, so I could actually probably put 5 more on the other side, because it's like a customizable insert. You could make it into all different bottles. But we actually used it last week. We went to Maui, and Maui doesn't have good wine anywhere on.
So you brought wine too there. 2 where you were going. That's so smart.
So I brought wine, and I was pleasantly surprised with the quality even before I used it, because I have a lot of suitcases, to be honest.
And you have bougie suitcases. You have.
I do.
Yeah, you like your bougie.
No, not bougie, but like I like kind of the
quality.
So mine are monos. That's what I like, and they're fabulous suitcases. But this one I thought rivaled it in quality, hands down, at least as good, if not better. It's more protective because what you're carrying inside. So
right. Cool.
And it did great. I mean, I brought I brought white wine because it was, 85 degrees and humid in Maui, but the wine was totally protected and got there super safe. So yeah, I was really pleased. I think I'm going to buy another suitcase, to be honest.
Heck yeah. Use that promo code Adam20, baby.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, great. So corkandcruise.com is the website. I know Marianne and Jay, along with all of us, all the winemakers, I'll speak on behalf of them and everyone. We want to see you there. We want you to be on board. We want you to experience this with us, because like Donnie so appropriately noted, this is the combo. This is a confluence that won't be repeated ever again, of all these personalities and time and place and space and food and drink. It's going to be incredible. So if you want to get on the boat with us, go down the Rhone River with Cork and Cruise and Ama Waterways. Go to corkandcruise.com. I got a link right on my homepage, adammontiel.com. Click on the bar that says come cruise with us. It'll take you right there to corkandcruise.com. Marianne, I am getting so pumped, and it's so great to see you. Thanks for chatting with us, and we'll see you real soon.
Oh, I can't wait. All right. Thanks, Adam.
Man, I'm pumped. I like her a lot. She's so good at what she does. We were going to have such a fun trip. Whetting my appetite with this trip to France. Ama Waterways. There is no one that does it better. The Ama Christina and Cork and Cruise. Oh, yeah, and all those winemakers, too. Don Burns, Turtle Rock, Kit Kuiper, Hawks Hill Ranch, Juan Mercado of Rise Wines. I'm so excited to be there, trying to wrangle all these personalities. It is going to be a lot of fun. A lot of fun. All right, again, get to adammontiel.com. Click on the bar on the homepage. It says, come cruise with us. All right, are we ready to get in to John Couch? What a story this guy has. I just want to get right into it. This guy, unbelievable. John Couch, Apple, Couch Family Wines. Let's taste it. Let's spill it. Let's leave it all on the table. Let's get some of the pour. There's so much to go through with you. We'll talk about the winery. We'll talk about, just everything. We were talking off the air about, man, what a story. What do you miss most about Steve Jobs? What do you think are some pieces of his soul that maybe a lot of people didn't get to meet or understand like you did?
Well, obviously his brilliance, his ability to paint a picture.
With words?
Yes. So I'll give you an example. And there's more. We can come back to it. We're over at Stanford University. We used to do brown bag lunches. Steve and I would go into the auditorium. We'd sit on 2 stools, and the students would come in with their lunches, and they'd ask questions about Apple. And I remember one student said, Steve, John, what kind of people is Apple looking for, right? And my mind immediately is going, okay, undergraduate degree in engineering, MBA for product marketing. Before I could even get my thoughts, Steve goes, think of an ice cream sundae. And I'm going, okay, where's he going with this, right? And he goes, it's not the 2 scoops of vanilla ice cream. It's not the whipped cream, nor the chocolate sauce. He goes, it's not even the cherry. He goes, we're looking for the few nuts on top. Bingo. Everybody wants to work for Apple, right?
So good.
He had that ability. So for me, recruiting me, he didn't have to do much, but he articulated an article that had been written in Scientific America where they were measuring the efficiency of animal and man from point A to point B. Well, God's creation, man, was disappointing bottom of the list, but someone had the foresight to rerun that test with man riding a bicycle, which amplified his ability. Steve saw technology as the mental bicycle, as the amplifier for our creativity, our innovation. And so technology didn't exist for technology's sake. technology existed to empower us to build tools that made our lives more creative. And that's exactly what I wanted to do with the personal computer, right? I knew that the day would come when everybody would want a personal computer. Back then, nobody wanted it. In fact, if we had done market research, the market research would have said, no, don't build it. But I remember Bill Hewlett telling me when we introduced the first handheld calculator, HP 35, it was $395, and all it did was add, subtract, and multiply and divide in reverse Polish, okay? We went out and did market research. They came back and said, don't build it. Nobody wants it. And Bill Hewlett said, well, I want it. And furthermore, I want it to fit in my shirt pocket. 9 months later, it's doing $180 million in revenue. And the largest slide rule company in the world is out of business because they thought they didn't think of themselves in the computational business. They thought of themselves in the slide rule business.
Yeah.
And they didn't see technology coming. And that's a mistake a lot of people make still to this day. That's why my second book on rewiring education 2.0 is education in an artificial intelligence world.
Yeah.
What impact is artificial intelligence going to have on a pedagogy that was defined in 1912?
Right. Wow. I want to ask you about that because I want to know where things are going. One more question about Steve Jobs. As far as Steve Jobs, the man, I imagine you were closer and knew him really well. Would see him struggle, or when you would were you tight? Would you bro out with him? And when you must have gotten a phone call at some point for him to tell you that he was indeed sick, or things were changing, or his life was taking turns. What were those, intimate conversations and for you and him?
Well, there was only a few times where Steve would wear it on his sleeve. I mean, he kept to himself pretty well. I saw a change in him. Again, I think because I was sort of the adult in the room in 78, that he developed a healthy respect for...
Big brother?
No.
Paternal?
No, just my knowledge.
Yeah.
And
just a
how
respect
that
for
knowledge
what you knew,
could help him accomplish what his vision was. I remember being on an airplane in Italy with him, and we were on the plane getting ready to take off, and they made the announcement that there was a bomb threat in the luggage department. Would you all please sit quietly while we unload the luggage? And Steve and I are looking at each other. Hey, man, unload us.
Yeah.
Forget the luggage, So, that kind of unnerved him a little bit, right? And so we took off, and we were in the plane, and Steve looks over to me, and he goes, I have a lot of respect for you because you work as hard as I do, and yet you're married and have a family. I want to get married someday. Where do you think I can find a good wife? And so I go, well, Steve, I met my wife in college, but you didn't go to college, so strike one. And I said, maybe you could meet a good person in church, but you don't go to church, strike two. And we went down a few more things like this, and we looked at each other and go, Steve, it's impossible. And because I think what he was struggling with was, did women like him because he was Steve Jobs?
Yeah.
And had the wealth, or did they really like him?
Right.
And
was his EQ as high in acumen as his IQ?
Yeah, higher.
He was really an emotionally intelligent person.
Woz was the 200 IQ.
Yeah.
Steve knew.
But I mean the EQ, his emotional intelligence. Was he connected in that way?
But Steve could forecast the future, but he also knew when to introduce a product, right? So, for instance, the technology that went into the iPhone was originally developed for the iPad. And Steve said, well, we got a new idea for a phone. Let's hold off on the technology for the phone. See, he just had this uncanny knack, this vision, but also when to bring the technology into the marketplace, to hold off on something.
Were you always a good advocate for yourself as far as growth, getting raises? Were you as the company
never
grew?
Had to.
You never had to?
No.
That's kind of cool, huh?
I took a huge pay cut, and I went to work in September, and in January they gave me a bonus twice my salary. Right? And in that 4 months later, they said, okay, we're breaking you away from Steve. You're no longer the director of new products, Steve being the vice president of products. You're the new VP of software. And Steve said, well, you're not going to do that until you find a replacement for me.
Yeah.
Right? Never had to worry about that. I wrote the software strategic plan for the company on what we would do in the Apple II, what we would do with the Apple II follow on Apple III, and what we were going to do with the 16-bit computer, which became the graphical user interface. And then all of a sudden, because the Apple III was sort of a failure in the sense that we had to recall them all because engineering and manufacturing didn't really mesh. Manufacturing would say, we can't build this because there's problems with the board. Engineering would say, yes, it can be built. And when that happens, we were in the executive staff, and at that time, Mike Scott was the CEO. He came in and he goes, we're going to a division, right? Gene Carter, you used to be in charge of sales. You're now in charge of the Apple II. Mr. Couch, you used to be a vice president of software. You're now in charge of the 16-bit computer, Lisa, right? And we weren't ready to do that because that meant all of a sudden, you had six finance guys instead of one, right? And I was even responsible for pilot manufacturing. In other words, I had to build the first 1,000 within the engineering department before it shifted over to a manufacturing division. And we weren't really ready to go to that. And then of course, Steve goes, well, I want to run this new computer. And that's, sometimes I think back and I said, and the company didn't think Steve was ready to manage that many people. He was, he could be pretty tough on people because he had a low tolerance for fools.
Yeah.
If you try to BS Steve, it's Katie by the door.
Yeah.
You're out.
Demand for excellence.
Yeah. And you had to stand up for yourself. In fact, when I retired and he asked me to come back, he shared with me, he said, John, I got too many yes. I need people that are willing to stand up to me. Now, you could be pretty tough because if you couldn't explain to Steve, no slides, just right from your heart, something in about a minute, he would take over and tell you what you were doing.
Yeah.
But I remember I was at Harvard presenting there to the faculty, and the lady comes in and says, you have a call for Steve Jobs. Okay, you go, okay. What did I do wrong, right? And it was about 10 for teachers. Steve banked the company. When he brought me back, he says, I bet the company on OS 10, right? Because nothing we had would run on OS 10, no hardware, and none of the software that, we had 90% of the education market would run. So you were basically pulling the rug out from people saying, you got to go to this new operating system. Well, they also then could make the decision to go over to Microsoft, right? And so we were sitting around, I said, I did a study, and I said, Steve, only 6% of the machines in education can run OS 10. I go, well, what are we going to do? So Phil Schiller and Steve and we were sitting around, and we said, well, why don't we give every teacher in North America a free copy of OS 10, right? And I said, that'll be my whole marketing budget for the year, Steve. And I said, how many do you think will take us up on it? And he said, maybe 15,000. 500,000 teachers took us up on the OS 10.
Wow.
Took it over to the IT department and said, you made the transition from typewriters to computers. This is the best operating system for education out there.
Yeah.
Quit whining and do your job.
Yeah.
I have that email of that somewhere in my files.
No way.
I saw that. I go, this is exactly what we had hoped to accomplish.
What's the biggest piece you look back? I mean, gosh, your resume, the stuff you've accomplished, done, and been into and worked on is insane, John. Is there one thing that even might not look from the outside like the shiniest piece and the most proud piece of accomplishment? What is it for you, though? Whatever it is there a piece of that history in your career that you just look back on and you're like, yeah, man, but that?
To be really honest, my faith
got you through your career.
Everything, because I remember making the announcement of the graphical user interface, which people had never seen before, at Boston Computer Society, okay? And to incredible ovations, right? I mean, I remember putting a spreadsheet up where, remember in Fortran, if your format didn't match the size of your quantity, you got all these little X's.
Yeah, you're asking me if I remember that? I don't remember.
I put it up there, and everybody goes, oh, mistake.
Right.
And I just went up there with the mouse to the column and dragged it to the right, and the number came up, and everybody goes, whoa, yeah. How do you do that, And then I went to New York at the Carlisle Hotel penthouse to meet with the press. So we met with the press all day. And then I remember that night, late that night, maybe early in the morning, looking at all the lights in New York and saying, I thought it would be more euphoric, and a wave came over me that just simply said, you've been climbing a building built on the wrong foundation. This isn't where your peace and your joy comes from. It comes from your faith, comes from your family. And in that moment, I just wanted to be home. I just wanted to be back with my family. And that's kind of the tipping point in my life when I made the decision that what's first? Remember I had lost my dad when I just turned 6. When I was 9, I lost a sister who was 7. When I was 12, I lost another sister. So I knew by experience that life was short. Was I spending my time on the right stuff? That plus the fact that I sort of justified my 60-hour work weeks by kids got to eat, they got to have shoes, they got to go to college. And, with the Apple going public, I could no longer justify that because all of a sudden those were there. So that was a big tipping point in my life. And I'm kind of, to me, that was a major decision, one that I don't take credit for making. I think it's called grace, and it changed my life. And that's when I retired from Apple. I was basically praying. I saying, Lord, what's your will for my life? Because I'm 36 years old and I don't know what to do next. I can go back to Silicon Valley. There's lots of opportunities there, but I think you've got something else planned for me. And he gave me the parable of the Good Samaritan and says, you need to meet the present need. Well, the present need was the failed school in San Diego.
Yeah, that's what you went to. Beach. Yeah.
And so I said, okay. And I'll offer to write them a business plan. And I put together in the process of putting together the business plan, I realized that they were $360,000 in debt, losing $30,000 a month, and had a 30-day lease on the property. And I went, oh my God, I'm going to fail. What's Steve going to say? What's Bill Gates going to say?
Yeah,
and the Lord just really convicted me and said,
wow,
hey, all the things I've blessed you with, just because you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, you're going to bail?
Doesn't mean it's not
and
there.
I go, okay, that's it. I'll put the effort in, but results are yours.
So interesting that you were looking up such a huge steep hill and worried about what some of the biggest people in the world, as far as like brains and
called pride.
Yeah, right. But what they were going to think of you because they knew you and knew your work ethic, and then it ended up. How did it end up?
Well, I committed to write this plan, and I woke up one morning and I had this dream. And in the dream, we were on a sinking ship throwing life preservers to the people that were drowning. And I went, well, that's strange. And a message immediately came to me and said, the day will come when the people will argue about the color of the life preservers. And to me, that was a message from the Lord that said, that's when you're free from this calling. And that came 10 years later. And it came 10 years later because we had no gym, and I wanted to build a gym. And the finance people said, well, we have to raise the money first. And I said, well, if we raise the money first, then man gets credit for the gym. If we step out in faith, which we've done for 10 years, folks, then God gets credit. And they argued. And I said, okay, well, then this will be my last year as chairman of the board. And then at Christmas, I always threw a dinner for the board. They came up to me and they said, we've really been thinking about this and praying about it. And we think you're right that we've left no room for God to work. We'll go ahead and raise the money. But I had already turned my wrist.
Yeah.
And I think
were they trying to keep
I think
you?
they raised the money in 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
It was done.
Mm-hmm.
A done deal. But that's when Steve, so then I went back to Mayfield as an entrepreneur, as an executive, in residence. And they assigned me to a bunch of, internet was just started taking off, right? People didn't even know that they were going to build websites, right? And in fact, one of the jobs I had actually interviewed for was the people who own the domain name, the rights to issue the domains.
Yeah. And
I was owned by the big San Diego modem company, and they sent me out, and I went out there, and the parking lot was empty at 4:00. The people had no idea what they had, and and I talked to him and I challenged him and I came back and the CEO of the big company says to me, he goes, those people are kind of concerned that you're going to change things. And I go, damn right, it needs to be changed because you guys can lose this domain name, which they ended up doing. They lost it. But I mean, they had the rights to the domains. They made money on every domain name.
Wow.
And there was a cash machine and they couldn't see it. Then I went back to Mayfield and they dropped me into this bioinformatics company. I didn't know how to spell it, much less what it was. But it was, the integration of biology and computers, technology.
Yeah.
And
biotech was huge.
And it was a Friday, I remember. So I was rebranding them from Pangea to Double Twist. Okay. And I was creating an online research environment where we had software agents that you could submit a sequence and they would tell you it was a patent agent and there was a homologous agent and literature agent. And anyway, we created this environment that basically empowered people to do research all over the world without being in a bioinformatics company or a biotech company or a pharmaceutical. On a Friday, they said, we'd like you to be the CEO of the company. And I go, whoa. I mean, I dropped out for 10 years, guys. I mean, and we had a blue ribbon board. Kleiner Perkins, Mayfield, Sam Colella. And I said, okay, I'll help. Two young kids out of Stanford, I'll help them. Saturday morning, Steve calls me. Said, I'm going back to Apple. I want you to go back with me. I go, Steve, you called me yesterday. I'm commuting to Oakland each day instead of 1 mile down to the Apple headquarters. And he said, but Steve, I gave them my word. And Steve goes, I respect that. He says, call me as soon as you're freed up. That's what I liked about Steve.
Yeah.
And when I first left, he said, John, I don't share your convictions, but I respect you for having them.
Yeah.
And he goes, go into the education world, learn the business, and then come back to Apple.
And you did.
He goes, take the business acumen into the education world and then come back to Apple. I had no idea. Steve was already thinking of that 10 years ahead. And so when we sold the company,
it was almost like his version of mission work for you.
When we sold the company, I called him and he said, hey, you're a known quantity. Come in. I want you to meet the rest of the execs. And that's what I did. He says, but I don't know what your job is.
And you became what, VP of education?
Well, I don't know if I'm going to put you in charge of applications, which is what my background was, or I'm going to put you in charge of education because of your 10 years in education. And so for the first 3 months, no one knew what I was doing. It was stealthy, right? Everybody's going, who is this guy? We knew who he was because, of the early Apple days.
Is he my boss or not?
Yeah. Well, what's he doing here? Are they checking on me? And so for 3 months, I sat next to Phil Schiller in an office, basically absorbing the differences in the company, the different culture, the technology.
How it changed.
How it had changed.
Were you happy with those changes?
And I got to go, sit in on education meetings where I watched the sales guy and the marketing guy go head to head. And the sales guy wanted to create a service business and the marketing guy wanted to do this. Finally, Steve, he says, just give me some time. I want to study this. Then he finally said, okay, I want you to be the VP of education. And what he did was, which was very unique, because we were siloed, right? There was hardware, there was operating system, there was application software, there was sales, there was marketing. He took he goes, John, I've failed education. And I don't know whether the problem is a sales problem or a marketing problem. So I'm taking the sales away from the sales team, and I'm taking the marketing away from the marketing team, and I'm giving them to you. And he goes, if you can't solve the problem, we're out of the education business. In 10 years, we built it to a $10 billion business.
Wow. That's incredible. You know what? For you, philanthropy, community engagement was huge. When you made the decision to move to San Luis Obispo, that didn't change. You have, just in the short time of being here, are incredibly integral to the support of everything from Cal Poly to the Foundation for the Performing Arts Center, where I sit as a committee member, to, you're now in the wine community. What lights you up as far as giving back, and what ways do you feel that you're led to be a steward with your resources in the area to do good?
Well, I think my doctor used to tell me never retire. You retire, you die. He used to tell me, right? So I didn't come to San Luis Obispo community to retire. And I guess the first opportunity I was given was my mom died at 94. And she had left me a little money. Actually, it was the money because I had given her some Apple stock. And so my mom got to be a millionaire, right?
No way.
I said, Mom, do you know you're a millionaire? And of course, she never
That must have felt so good to do that for your mom.
So she left it to all her boys, and where my brother had passed away, left it to his kids. And so I wanted to do something to honor her. And so we built the Mary Lou Couch. Well, we're building the Mary Lou Couch meditation room and Serenity Garden at French Hospital. That's kind of where it started. And then I had an operating vineyard in the Santa Cruz Mountains, Santa Cruz Appellation. And when I bought this property, I went, well, why don't I plant some grapes here? But I know nothing about wine, I
know a few people.
Yeah. And so I met the people the research people, particularly Federico and the chairman of the department. And I said, what do you need? And I said, you guys, if you're ever going to catch up with Davis or even pass Davis, because Pasco is going to be the new Napa.
Paso, yeah, sure.
And they said, well, we need a machine that chemically analyzes wine. Well, that's an Agilent machine and costs $1.5 million,
Wow.
And so, but they would give the university a discount. So I said, okay, well, I'll buy that machine for you if in turn you let me run my wines through the machine, right? And then in the process of doing that and forming a relationship with them and seeing their strength in the sensory lab, I thought, well, why don't we form? You've really helped me in my small vineyard and wine business, and I want to do all Italian varietals here, and they're helping me, choose those. I said, why don't we form the Cal Poly Research Initiative that allows people to access your technology, the chemical analysis, the sensory, and other strengths that Cal Poly has in agriculture and water and
other small branded, small boutique wineries.
And they said, well, how would that work? I said, well, I don't put me in touch with students in the business school, and I will issue a challenge. Remember, I wrote Rewiring Education,
right,
which is about challenge-based learning, which mapped perfectly with Cal Poly because they call it learn by doing.
Yeah.
Okay. And
that was a bestseller, and that book was huge in China.
Oh, it was number one.
It was a number one bestseller in China.
Yeah. Yeah. They were just here visiting me and gave me a bunch of Chinese stock, which maybe it's worth papering the wall with. I don't know.
Chinese stock in what?
In an AI company.
Oh,
an education AI company.
What did you have to do to get that?
Because I worked with them, and
wow.
He had read my book, and he had come to visit me, and my book was like yellow lined and notes everywhere and everything, and he goes, I want to work with you. And I said, well, I didn't write this book for Chinese culture. I wrote this book for the challenge that we have in the U.S. And I said, but I'll tell you what, why don't you write a chapter, add a chapter to my book for China?
Wow.
And he did. And that really opened the door for us in China because he had 1 million online students.
He writes this book with this Apple vet.
He added a chapter to my book. We got it translated into Chinese. And then I went over for a press tour, which was incredible,
Huge.
Right? I remember doing a podcast with their top educator, and 750,000 people listened to it.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. I'm more famous in China than I am in my own country. It reminds me of something, right? And so they called me. That was in May. And they said, we want you back in December. We're going to do a 12-city tour. They booked first-class tickets for me. And 1 week before I was supposed to go, it was the end of November, I just got this, I don't know what you call it, a sense that don't go. And I knew I needed to get a knee replacement. And so I used that as, I said, look, I got to get this knee replacement. I can't do a 12-city tour
travel,
and all
sure,
that stuff. Yeah. And so I said, I need to bail out of this. I would have been in China, in Wuhan, the first week of December.
No way.
I would have been stuck there.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
John.
I would have been stuck there.
In Wuhan at the beginning of this.
At the beginning.
Does that make you just bring chills to you?
Well, it just goes to me to show that, I don't control my life.
Yeah.
So anyway, they visited me last month because they want to be part of the new AI book. And they gave me this little gold figure. I guess that's their brand, and gave me this stock. And
how do you give someone stock? They give you like a little folder, like call my guy.
No, it's a certificate.
Wow.
I'm going, that stock can be worthless, or maybe it can be worth some money. If it's worth some money, it goes back into the community because that's where we were going. Okay.
Yeah.
So I never put my name on anything I ever did before. But when I got here, and I think one of the first gifts I may have given was to the Rep Theater and to the Seoul Film Festival.
Cool.
And everybody goes, wow, that's a great gift. And I'm going, are you kidding me? This is mouse nuts,
Yeah.
And I just realized that a handful of people here do the majority of the giving. And so I said, well, look, I want my 17 grandkids to understand how important it is to give back. My grandfather didn't have the wealth to give back, but what he gave me was him. Because when my dad died, he sold his company. He was crippled. He came out, he raised me, taught me to ride a bike, taught me to drive a car, taught me the difference between right and wrong, took me to my first baseball, hockey, basketball, bought me my first car, everything, came from him. And I am who I am today because of him. And, I want to honor him. I want to be to my grandkids what he was to me. So I want them to see that everything we own, everything we have is a gift. And we ain't taking it with us, right? And so do some good.
Beyond the philanthropy, do you look at some of your artistic endeavors as philanthropy, or do you look at them as investment? Because, we're going to talk about this movie, The Italians, coming up. You were involved in, I didn't know this until I was reading on you, you were involved in The Sound of Freedom, which was this independent movie which just took the whole world by surprise, and it slayed.
I look at it as an investment in people. People work hard, particularly, nonprofit organizations. So I really look at things as an investment in people and in values. Now, The Sound of Freedom was a lark, okay? Jewel invited, she was going to play at the Hollywood Bowl in front of the Philharmonic Orchestra. She invited me down. She said, would you come down? And I go, sure, I'll come down. It's funny because Jewel's CEO of their Inspiring Young Children Foundation, he's a twin of another friend I have in Miami who's very wealthy.
No way.
And, and I'm going to Formula One, because he built this trophy house, which is absolutely incredible. And it's a who's who that gets invited. But anyway, I get my seats and I'm about 3/3 of the way up the Hollywood Bowl. And Ryan comes up and he goes, Jewel wants to see you. Come with me. And we got to get up on stage, to get to the green room. So we get up on stage, we go to the green room. And Jules doesn't have a voice. And she's got a doctor there and they're kind of spraying.
She's so hot. She's so awesome. I love her.
And she goes, I just wanted to say hello to you and take your picture with you.
Wow.
But I can't talk right now. So you come back when I get a break. So we go back on stage, we go back down the front row, and we notice right in the front row, there's a box and there's only 3 people in it. And there's 3 seats empty. So Ryan asked the usher, he goes, can we sit there? And he goes, no, you're not allowed. These are all box seats. Almost everything in the Hollywood Bowl is sold to longtime subscribers, right? But the lady goes, well, these people aren't coming tonight. I'd be glad to have them sit with us. So I go and sit in the front row in this seat. And, as a way of thanking the lady, I bought her 2 bottles of Dom Perignon and we're sitting there. And then the mission comes on and Ryan comes back down, gets me, and he goes back up on the stage back and she chats with me and everything. And meanwhile, people are going, well, who's this guy that keeps going up on stage,
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting there and Eduardo, who's the producer of Sound of Freedom and the director, and his daughter take the other 3 seats. And that's how I met him. And so Eduardo starts telling me, he's a movie star. He was in a boy band in Mexico. He did soap operas. He's extremely well known.
Yeah.
And there's great stories about his first movie, which was called Bella. Anyway, so he's sharing all this stuff with me, and in the process, I find out that he's celibate. And I go, well, so am I. So why don't we afterwards? We'll go over to the west to the W, and we'll continue talking. So we're over at the W till like 2:00 in the morning. Everybody's drunk and half naked. We're sitting talking about Jesus.
Yeah, right.
And so he tells me about, the needing money for the film. And then I said, well, I'm celebrating my 70th birthday next week. Why don't you guys come and speak? And I'll tell people no gifts, just give it all for this film. And he said, and I'll pray about it. I said, but the Lord kind of has me in a narrow education type thing. And I don't know how education fits him into the film. And then I realized that as these kids come back from bondage, they need to be built up emotionally, spiritually, and academically. And so I go, I have the pedagogy. I have the curriculum that we developed in Mexico for that. And so that's when I decided I would go ahead and invest in the
film,
Sound of Freedom.
Sound of Freedom. Were you surprised when it just stole America's hearts the way it did?
Totally. I mean, so, I'm reading, people are saying, oh, you guys are just making money on the backs of poor children. And that's when I decided, okay, every nickel that comes from that movie goes back into the community and into God's kingdom. But yeah, I was very surprised because I didn't realize how unique it really was until I was asked to be part of a new movie house. And in the process, I do a lot of branding and business plans for people. And so I looked at the return on all movies, and I realized, oh my gosh, this thing kicked butt.
By all standards.
It was just, it was unbelievable. I mean, Passion for Christ was the only Christian film that ever did more in revenue, I think, but they spent 10, 15 times more in the marketing.
And it wasn't because you look at the production and the producers, the EPs, Mel Gibson is on there. I think even Tony Robbins is on there. You were a part of a small team of a lot of really well-known people who believed in this film.
Well, Tony went on one of the where they went to save kids. They put him on a wig and everything. And so he saw God's work being done. And I was fortunate enough to go to the final filming in Colombia, which this was the story about Colombia, and sit in the bar with Jim Caviezel on every night, having him tell me the stories about Passion of Christ.
What was that like?
About he was hit with lightning, how he broke his collarbone, how they made a mistake and scourged him, and it just all of everything coming against that film.
Yeah.
Everything. Including the last night when Mel got up at the cast party and said, we can't find anybody to distribute this film. So we've even tried to get to the Pope, the Catholic Church, without luck. So I'm just going to eat the 100, 200 million that I put into it. And this little guy raises his hand. They called him Lightning because he'd been hit multiple times by lightning. And he goes, well, my dad's the Pope's best friend. I could call him for you if you'd like.
No way.
Yeah. And that was the breakthrough.
So was the Vatican?
Well, I don't know, but that's what he told that story.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so I invested in it, and I don't see my calling being one to many. I am now being asked to write where Apple is sort of my business journey, I'm being asked to sort of write my spiritual journey, and it's called Ordinary Man, because one of the first songs that I wrote was Ordinary Man.
Write songs, too.
Yeah, I've got 4 CDs, praise and worship CDs out there.
And you're writing the music?
No, I write the words.
You write the words?
And then I work with young, talented kids who need material.
Sing it. And
then we go record it.
No way.
And then we put it on a CD.
Are you thinking of the melody, too, when you're writing stuff, or just the words?
No,
so you're just writing the poem?
I'm just writing the words that come to me in my morning quiet time. And I have posted every day since July of 2017. I have 79 journals that I've written.
Where do you post these?
On Facebook.
On Facebook?
Yeah.
You have a Substack or anything?
And it's called Eden Inspirations, capital CA, California.
Why don't you do a Substack?
I don't know.
You should.
I tried to. I was on my own website, but they won't handle the material, the amount of material.
Yeah.
So you'll have to educate me on that.
Yeah, I will. It's so funny that I would educate you on anything. But I'll talk to you about Substack, because people like writers and stuff like you would, a lot of people would channel in, they'd follow you.
I have that. I have a pretty good following.
I'm sure you do.
You know?
I'm sure you do.
And so I spend a lot of time now with students and startup companies, helping them to get to understand the difference between a vision and a mission.
What's the difference between?
The vision is why you do something. The mission is what you do.
Okay.
So if you think about Apple, Steve's vision that technology would empower, us as individuals to change our lives, to improve our lives. But what's changed? So what went from personal computer to iPod, to iPad, to a phone, to a watch. So what's changed? But the vision that technology and that we have God-given abilities to build tools and leverage technology.
I have to do a TEDx talk about determination. I get to do a TEDx talk, I should say. I was asked, and I was floored, flattered, said yes immediately, and now I'm scared to death. It happens on April 14th at the PAC at Cal Poly, and it's on the theme determination. When you reflect on determination, and I kind of have this idea of like, whether you achieve whatever the vision or the mission is, it really feels like determination is all about, it's all shaped in that journey on the way there. What conjures up in your heart when I talk about determination?
I think determination comes from intrinsic motivation, not from extrinsic motivation. And our schools are based on extrinsic motivation. You will do this by Friday. You will learn World War II by Christmas. Everybody will learn at the same time, and never really recognizes the uniqueness of an individual, nor the uniqueness of their gifts. And that's what challenge-based learning does. It says, you pick the challenge. And invariably, the students pick a bigger challenge than any teacher would ever pick, because they're picking challenges to the middle of the graph, right? And in my book, there's an example of a Chicago school. And I think if I remember correctly, it's 6th grade, could be 8th grade, but we plotted the kids' reading ability. You had one kid reading at the highest level, another kid sort of in between that and average, the kid all the way at the bottom. There were 6 different levels. And the time that it would take a teacher to pick the appropriate challenge at each of those levels is more than 40 hours a week. So we fundamentally have set up our teachers to fail. And so if that kid who was reading at the 1st grade level got to the 5th grade level, she would still be considered a failure, even though she amplified his ability 4 times. So that's all in my rewiring book, right? And it's backwards. That's why all my kids under 14 are homeschooled.
Yeah.
And we have other challenges. I actually wrote a book called System Failure. But when I finished it, I didn't like it. It was too negative. And it got into politics as well. And I just said, that's not what I want to write. So we chucked it and we started the Rewiring Education 2.0, how AI is going to impact.
Before we get into wine, I want to ask you, were you ever like headhunted in your time at Apple, other companies seeing or did they just know that you were so loyal to Steve?
I was headhunted out of HP.
Yeah.
By National Semiconductor. But because that's when really the microprocessors were still coming online, and all of a sudden, guess what? We need software.
Talk about the future in tech. I mean, semiconductors are an issue. China has, or Taiwan rather, and depending on what happens with China and Taiwan, you mentioned AI a little earlier. Where do you see things going with AI in the future? That didn't sound good.
It's like asking me to boil the ocean.
Okay.
Who knows? How do you do
it?
Or Mike Marco used to tell me, he says, how do you move a 20,000-pound marshmallow? Because no matter how much you push on it, it doesn't move.
Yeah.
And the answer is one bite at a time. Okay. So we kind of have to take these steps at a time. I think AI is changing everything.
Yeah.
I mean, remember I did my poster for the tasting room in AI. My son, who's a app developer and graphic designer, is all of a sudden saying, well, is this even a job for me in the future, right? My concern is, and it goes all the way back to the early computer days, garbage in, garbage out. You can pretty much.
My mom used to say that.
I remember I helped a young kid with a company called, it was sort of a qualitative spreadsheet, union activity, and not, the qualitative stuff, not just the quantitative stuff. And we wrote this software, but then I realized it was just a CYA. I could put anything in it. I could weight anything the way I wanted it to come out to the answer I wanted. And I go, well, this isn't going to go anywhere. We shut that one down. But it was fun.
Yeah, right.
Where should I put my manufacturing plant? That's the kind of question. And that's a great challenge-based learning. Is my water safe to drink? Instead of memorizing the periodic chart. You got to learn things in order to solve the problem.
That's how you look at it, how you attack it.
Yeah.
It's so interesting.
And the kids down in the desert took on that challenge, 8th grade kids on that challenge, and they found that the level of arsenic in the water was too high. And then you start asking questions, well, who determines what's too high?
Right.
And it just raises a learning environment where kids get, to work together. See, and challenge-based learning is based on 4 principles. One is relevant. Is it relevant to me? Am I intrinsically motivated to solve this problem? Or, am I just bored to death on 12 pages of long division arithmetic? Okay. The second is creativity. Am I the one that gets to be the creative, or is the teacher the creative one and then ask me to do the same, every kid in the class to do the same thing? And the third is collaboration, because I'm going to learn from you, as we just discovered with your stack idea. But when I went to school, collaboration was called cheating, because every project I had was an individual project. And the last and most important thing, it has to be challenging. Because if it's going to keep my attention, that's where we learn from game theory. Game theory is you just got another level. And I want to get to that next level. I want to get to that next level. I want to get to that next level. That's not the way our schools are designed. Cal Poly is probably the uniquest university because they have learn by doing. Everything out of there that comes out of there, the beef, the cheeses, the ice cream, if you look at in San Luis Obispo, Giuseppe's senior project, right? Jamba Juice, senior project. There's these senior projects all over this
Turned
town.
into institutions.
Yes.
So incredible. So what made you want to get into wine? And how much of you're executive producer of this film or that one, how much of a role do you want to play into it? How, obviously you're proud of the product. You got bottles of it sitting right here, but what was it about the wine industry that what you wanted to dive in?
Well, again, I make a lot of my decisions based on people. The wine was I grew up in an Italian, Irish, Scottish background. Wine was always part of our lives. When I went to Europe in the middle of 8th grade, you couldn't drink the water because you get hepatitis, so you would drink wine. I could go to the local French store and buy wine at 12 years old, right? But I think it's the Italian roots. And so when I bought the 20 acres in Saratoga, I thought, well, maybe not the cheapest landscape, but an alternative landscape would be to plant some grapes. And that's what I did. And that's how I originally got into it. Just started in 2014 and made some wines that scored 96 points. And, and I thought, well, that's the kind of wine I want to make. If I'm going to do it, I want it quality, right?
Yeah.
And so when I came here and I found this 40 acres, I go, well, why don't I just plant some grapes? But I don't want to plant or Chardonnay because I can buy that from anybody.
What's the soil like? Did you ask someone, hey, what should I plant here?
Cal Poly.
So Cal Poly came here and said, hey.
They're my partners.
Yeah.
They're my partners.
But did you just say, hey, I want to plant Italian ones? Which Italian ones? Or you say, hey, look at the
I just
soil,
said I want to. Federico, who runs the research group, says, look, the climate here is very similar to that in Italy.
Yeah.
So we planted Sagratini, which is a big, bold wine, and Nebbiolo and Verdicchio to start. And I'm not sure I'm going to plant anymore because there's so many. See, I think wineries are on a hard time now because during COVID, restaurants shut down. They stopped buying wine. I think we're overplanted. You can see all over the valley here. They're tearing out grapes and putting in lemons and almonds and different crops. So I need to go slow. I'm not sure. My goal is to break even.
Yeah. Do you want to source grapes from other places?
I do that now.
Yeah.
But, you know,
who makes your wine?
What drives me, well, it used to be made by Bill Rousseau in the Santa Cruz appellation. Right now, Steve Dooley is making Stephen Ross.
Yeah, cool.
But I've got all my equipment sitting out there trying to find something. But what excites me about wine is, you know, my vision again comes from a Bible verse where it talks about wine being the impetus for joy. And so my goal in the tasting room is to serve an incredible wine, meet people, and have them leave with joy in their heart. And so it's more of my friends kid me and says, you're going to find a wife in your tasting room. I go, well, I'm not looking for a wife, but yes, I agree that we'll meet some great people in the tasting room, and we can empower our wines at the Rep Theater, our wines at the PAC, our wines at Madonna. Our wines are starting to find their way into everything.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's such a great story. So you are single, but are you looking?
No. I have a very high bar.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of interesting.
What part?
Well, I because of, I think, losing so many family members, I'm very sensitive to people's needs. And in a lot of cases where I feel I can help somebody and my lifestyle won't drastically change and there's will, I want to do that. And I think both of my wives were great people, beautiful people, very smart people, but something in their background where they had needs. And my daughter asked me one time, she said, Dad, do you think you marry people that need to be saved because you couldn't save your sister? And I thought, wow, I mean, that didn't come from a book.
Yeah.
You know, that came from an inspiration. And I thought, you know, there's probably some truth to that. So right now, my focus is first hour to 2 hours in the morning, do my daily readings, Psalms, journal, and then extract from that journal some sort of prayer, some sort of message, some sort of story that goes out to the world, not to broadcast, just to put it out there. Because I believe that the people who need to find it will find it. I've built a community of people that follow me, and that's great too. And I can help them as well.
That's so cool. It's so rewarding.
One of my favorite, there's two stories that are really big time for me. And one of them is I've worked with a young lady by the name of Mallory Dwinell. And she is a Rhodes Scholar, PhD from Oxford, MBA from Harvard, and speaks 7 languages.
Oh my God.
I first helped her with a charter school she built in East Palo Alto for immigrants, students who were way behind with the technology and challenge-based learning. Then we started 2 companies, one called Craft University and one called Reach University. One is for teacher training, actually internship, so you can teach while you're getting your degrees online from Oxford. And she got married to a surgeon, and their baby was born with 2 pounds. And the doctors didn't think she would live. And so I added a prayer every morning for the health of that baby. That baby is 10 months old today and weighs 16 pounds. And the doctors, even normal, is only 3 times. And the doctors can't explain it at all. You know, I mean, in human understanding, we can't explain it. The other one is when I was in Colombia, I was interviewed by the Mexican television station, Televiso, right? And I guess I made an impact on the reporters or whatever, because they called and they said, every year they have this contest for 15-year-old girls, you know, quinceañera, right? And there's down to the last 16 girls, and would I mentor one over FaceTime? And I go, sure, why not? Well, it turns out the young girl that I got, dad was in prison, very, very poor family. Turns out she was a believer. So I mentored her for a while. Anyway, she made it to the Final Four. So they asked me to go to Miami for the final filming of the Final Four, and the winner got $50,000, and the second place got $25,000. And this girl needed $50,000 to go to school because there's no money in the family. It came down to her and another girl. The other girl's mom was a model, right? Dad was a doctor. Total opposite extremes. And they didn't need the money. And came down to the final question. And the question was, if you were invisible, what would you do? And so Inez said, well, because of her poverty, said she would put money in poor people's pockets. Okay, good answer. The other one, because she's in a medical doctor, said if she was invisible, she would go into places where the diseases were contagious, work with those people. She won. You know, I get a little emotional about it because I saw the disappointment and the hurt because she knew that she couldn't go to college now. Wasn't enough to go to college. That's when the Lord spoke to me and said, John, $25,000 is not going to change your life, but it will change her life. So I told her mom, I said, look, I'll give you the other $25,000. Of course, the reporters go, whoa, this has never happened in 30 or 40 years, right? That mother has prayed for me every day since 4 years. Ines has followed my posts every day. She texted me last week and said, I've got a 3.8 GPA, and I've been invited to go to school in Florence this summer. If there's anything you can do to help, I would appreciate it. You know, prayed about it, sent her some support. But see, that's what life's all about.
Yeah.
You know, that's what life's all about. And I know that because, you know, I know life's short because I've lived. I mean, you know,
when you have that trauma, I was watching a person talk to a psychologist about trauma brain. And just when you have so much loss and things that happen and you're so much focused on life being short, did you ever choose or did you ever like struggle with going through life wondering when another shoe would drop or things like that?
No, I never worried about it. I knew that I looked at it the other way, that every day is a gift. And what am I going to do today to make someone else's life better?
Yeah.
To send the right message to my grandkids. Okay. Made mistakes, a lot of mistakes. I think if anything, the one thing that kind of worries me a little bit is I've almost become immune to death. I went to my dad's funeral and, you know, I looked at him and I go, that's not my dad. He's not in that casket. I went to my mom's funeral, did the eulogy, but I felt somewhat guilty because I'm going, I should be feeling a lot more pain, and I'm not. I think it really hurt me in my second marriage because my wife was 28 years younger than me, and she was really into horses. Horses is what kind of saved her life. Her dad left when she was little, and her horse died. And I couldn't identify with her pain for the horse because I can't even identify with the pain when a human dies. And so I really, going to be my first question when I get to the gates is, okay, why can't I feel their pain? And maybe it's because I've got so much pain inside me that it just overrides someone else's pain.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a great question, really, that I don't think I'm going to get the answer on this earth.
Is it an ability? Do you feel an inability to connect? Or is
no. No, not at all. I didn't know what to say to my wife. I didn't know how to, I couldn't, man, we want to make it better. I don't want to make it better, I can't make it better.
Yeah.
But apparently I also lacked, what's the word?
Tact, empathy.
No, the empathy.
Sympathy.
And, empathy, sympathy, apparently she didn't see and expected to see it.
Yeah.
So I needed to be.
It was almost something that you didn't provide her that she needed.
I need to be on that. Someone once told me when I was going through a divorce, your wife's on a carousel. It's going up. Yeah. Going up and down. Don't get in there with her and go up and down. Keep your feet on the ground. I have a tendency to keep my feet on the ground while they're going through this emotional and down. And I guess they felt that I was not sensitive enough because I wasn't going through that same ride.
Did you feel misunderstood, or did you feel like maybe they're onto something?
At that time, neither. I just felt, I don't know what to say, so I'm going to let her, work this out herself.
Yeah. Where are we right now? This room. Where are we?
We are in a barn. We raised the old barn up because it was falling apart and built a new infrastructure and then dropped the barn back down and then rebuilt it with ipe wood, which doesn't burn and lasts 1,000 years. And it's become sort of the community's already picked a name for it. Okay?
Oh, really?
Yeah, because we do a lot of
events.
We do a lot of charitable type things in here. I think they call it, Couch's Charity Barn or something like that, But it's a man cave. It's the Couch family cave. I've got 3 pinball machines, shooting iron,
popcorn machine,
pool table,
roll-up doors,
foosball table,
so cool.
All the Star Wars from the first 3 movies on the wall, all the collection of the guitars. I got a little kitchenette in there.
Listen to the list. For someone listening, the list of the guitars that are just on one wall behind me. Grateful Dead, Johnny Cash, the Eagles, Rolling Stones. So these are guitars where they're signed by these people. Brad Paisley, Garth Brooks, Buddy Holly, The Doors, Carlos Santana, B.B. King, Bruce Springsteen, the Eagles, Jefferson Airplane, U2, Bono, Charlie Daniels, Creedence, Rita Wilson, U2, Bono again, Paul McCartney, Jewel. I don't know. That might be the most insane signed guitars collection ever.
I'm debating on whether to get who's the big star right now. She's on tour. Boyfriend, the football player.
Oh, Taylor Swift.
I can get an autograph. Taylor Swift.
Well, you should get it. Yeah, you might as well.
Well, the problem is it's got her image on it. It's a little bit.
Oh, what is it like? So the guitar has a picture of her on it.
Yeah, it has a picture of her on it with her signature.
Oh, wow!
I'm tempted to buy that one.
There you go.
I just bought one for Rob Rossi, Neil Young.
Wow!
Because Neil's into trains and Rob's into trains.
Yeah, that's so cool. What a cool gift.
Yeah. So anyway,
you made some good friends while you've seen the short time you've been here.
I do. I really have some great friends, and I came here only knowing one person, and of course my son.
Yeah. You must be a really cool dad, a cool grandfather.
I try.
Yeah.
I try. I'm trying to start traditions. So this year we started a tradition on the pool table, and we built a village because I have these old, houses and stuff. And the girls come in, they do it all. We outgrown that table. We're going to probably have to use these 48 feet of tables in this Christmas village.
Oh my gosh, how fun.
And so that's a new tradition. Up top there, you can barely see it, but there's an old stable. And
it's a beautiful property.
That's
my
the
goodness.
kids' playhouse.
What are you going to do with the house? You have a house that, when I was coming in, this area is really beautiful because you got the roll-up doors on either side. Like you said, the barn set up with all the cool fun stuff. You got these beautiful, iron chandeliers that go down the middle of the barn. Light wood, beautiful inside. Then you got a gorgeous leather couch, looking at a big screen. You got your copier. Looks like you got a little makeshift office here. Executive chair. You come here and do work.
Yes.
This is your office.
I'm supposed to be on that bike, but yeah, this is my office, and I think we should be getting our permit, in which case we'll start the house.
You have plans for the house? You already know what you want to do?
I already have the plans.
Tell me what it looks like.
I designed it. It's an Italian villa, all glass and rock, limestone rock.
Wow.
And the pool's already in, and it's an infinity pool that flows and overlooks all of San Luis Obispo.
Dude.
So, and I've already gifted the property to my kids, so hopefully we can keep it in the family.
Yeah.
And my goal is to give everything away, and then my collections, which are
when you say that, your kids go, whoa, dad,
they're taken care of.
Yeah.
But I mean the collections.
Yeah.
My baseball collections, my guitar collections. I will give them from the oldest down. They get to pick paintings they want, what watches they want, what guitars they want.
You collect a lot of cool shit as he goes to his phone.
I have.
What do you more into?
The most incredible
watches, cars,
baseball collection.
Baseballs or baseball cards?
Both.
Wow. Oh my gosh, John. Wow, you have a whole wood
you see this?
hutch with just a bunch of baseball.
You see this guy right here?
Yeah.
Ty Cobb, Walter Johnson, Christy Mathewson, Babe Ruth, and Honus Wagner.
Sign that ball. See, balls were
Hall of Fame.
You have balls worth millions of dollars. Who knows, right? I mean, I don't know. Some of these are like they're like one of a kind. They're like,
no, well, some of them are, yeah. My favorite baseball, which is probably worth nothing, okay? Yeah. He was a catcher for the Boston Red Sox. I think his batting average was .225, okay? But he was a Princeton professor who spoke multiple languages, including Japanese, and he went on the Japanese barnstorm tour with Babe Ruth, okay? And he filmed to Tokyo Harbor, okay? They made a movie about him. It was called The Catcher Was a Spy. And he went to work for what today is the CIA, but it had a different name in those days. And he was given the 007, and he was to go to Germany and meet the scientist that was working on Germany's atomic bomb. Okay. And he needed to determine real time whether he was really building the bomb or doing fake work.
Yeah.
And he had the right to kill him. And it's a great story. Moberg is his name, okay?
Yeah.
And nobody wanted Moberg's signature, right? And I happened to find Moberg's signature on one baseball that other Boston Red Sox signed, okay? So I doubt if, and then my other favorite one is some of the Negro Leagues.
Yeah.
Because there's history.
Yeah, there's a lot of history there.
Yeah. And I have other stuff, but I don't want to tell the world about them.
Yeah. No, I get it. But so cool. Well, I'm just one. I was just really touched when I had a chance to interview you with the Kristen Hoover with FPAC and bringing Jewel to the pack. I know you were integral in not only helping, support that with resources, but also your personal connection with Jewel was really what led that to happen. But just for you to share here your wisdom, your faith, and to be so real with me in conversation, there's just something so authentic and genuine about you. I really enjoy talking to you.
Well, I appreciate it. I normally don't do the things like this, but again, I want to have an impact, and particularly with college students, because, I think when we all look back at our lives, probably the biggest mistakes we made when we were 19, 20, and 21 years old.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy working with college kids, so particularly at Cal Poly, because there's just a lot of entrepreneur spirit there.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my, the experience that I got working with Steve Jobs in all those years and startups it's a wisdom that I'm finding is rare. I'm working with a young lady right now in a company called Crescendo, which basically is based on brain theory and rich, complex music for pre-K kids to get them better prepared for school. She was an opera singer. COVID cut her career short and is now launched into this particular endeavor. So I'm helping her with her branding and trying to understand the science because, I remember my first review ever. Mike Market, who was the CEO of Apple at the time, gave me a compliment by saying, one of your traits, intellectual traits, is being able to take something that's very complex and break it down so that people can understand.
It's huge.
And that's what I'm trying to do right now with this brain science, is break it down so I can understand it, so I can create the ice cream sundae of science.
That's on top, baby. Couchfamilywines.com is the website if you want to go try these wines. The tasting room is downtown Slow next to Woodstock. And when you see just the different work, and you know what, it's so funny because you're like to be touched by different people throughout your paths that have been touched by John Couch and his mission, his vision, and all of the above, as we say. Was this fun for you? Did you like this conversation?
I do, and the tasting room is full of pictures.
Oh, cool.
So my life and family journey is on the wall.
Nice.
So people can, I want to treat everybody as family that comes in. In fact, I've had 4 people come in whose last name are Couch. And I'm going, whoa.
What an interesting surname. I've never even heard that before you.
It's a lot from the South.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this was just a lot of fun for me. So thank you for welcoming me literally up to your home. I can't wait to see how this property and this place, this homestead of yours evolves. And I certainly hope this isn't the last time that we chat. So hope to connect with you again.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah. Cheers, man.
It's The Pour with Adam Montiel. You can hear The Pour in its entirety on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube Music, and wherever you get your podcasts. For more, visit adammontiel.com.